Another week, another video, and in this video, we're going to be going through a financial forecast for two different people. The first one is our baseline guy that we've been doing for the last few weeks, which is Phil Mitchell, a 64-year-old who's looking to retire, and this week he has £400,000 in his pension pot. The second scenario is answering this guy's question to see if he can afford to retire. Now, this is not financial advice. This is purely just an example. If you do want financial advice, reach out to me or find some other bozo. But I'm hoping this will be really helpful for you guys to give you an indication of where things sit with you guys. And as always, please do comment below if you've got any questions. So Phil Mitchell, 64, running to age 100. You've got inflation markers, CPI and RPI. I put them both at 3%. CPI is normally at 2.5%, which I say in every video. We've got that he's got £5,000 sitting in a cash account on a trailing very low interest rates. And then you've got the pension pot of £400,000 sitting at 6% growth linear. I will toggle and change that later, but at the moment, we're just going to leave it on linear to keep this very simple. This full state pension at the moment is £241.30 per week, payable for this guy from age 67. If we look at their expenses, that's £2,725, and that's because I'm using the retirement living standards examples of what a moderate person would be spending per month or per year, to show you guys what that look like. Their website is really good, despite all the hate that it's not realistic. I'm spending more, I'm spending significantly less. I think it's a good starting point for a lot of people. If you've got nearly £500,000 in savings and you're in your 60s, it's more than likely you want a moderate lifestyle because you've probably saved quite consistently and diligently for quite a long time. You can see here what that type of money would buy based on a moderate lifestyle, but I'll leave that to you guys to investigate later and leave a link below. So Phil is spending £2,725. I'm going to click the button now. And you can see at the bottom, 64 of retirement age, that's his pot. And then you can see it runs all the way to age 85 before he runs out of money. If I toggle this, it shows how he should be taking the money, but this one isn't really fancy because it's very simple. If I go down to the yearly breakdown, you can see because he's got a bit of cash in the first year, I'm going to click the second bit, and this is a tax breakdown. So it's recommending to be really efficient to use UFPLS, which means he needs to take £35,000 from his pension pot every single year. Naturally, 25% of that is tax-free, and then he is paying a little bit of income tax above his personal allowance. So he's paying £2,812.94 in exchange for about £35,000 worth of income, which I think is pretty good considering your pension has grown for decades without paying tax on the appreciation of the assets and getting tax relief every single contribution. That's all for that one. I will just show you a little stress test. So I'm going to toggle this into less linear. So we're going to use the template of a cautious benchmark using the last 30 odd years worth of data to show you a more realistic real world return on the investments. And rather than being at 85, it pushes it just a couple of years up to 87. So for the most part, you're probably going to be okay. If I then stress test this, so if you get really unlucky and the 2007, there's different market crashes we can run, but I think 2007, 2008 is probably the most important one in our lifetime. And it's very unrealistic to think that you're not going to have any market crash in the coming decades throughout retirement. So you do have to be cautious and understand what that looks like for you. So if I just toggle this, you can see that instead of getting to his mid or late 80s, actually, his money stops a whole decade sooner, around 75, 76, based on these expenses. I would say for the most part, it's pretty safe for this person to retire. I'd want to dig a bit deeper and look at what they're spending on their pet care, if they've got a pet, what they're actually spending on holidays, what type of lifestyle they've lived before, looking at their bank statements, analysing things in a lot more detail, and seeing if they've got more savings to make sure that they're using everything in a very tax-efficient manner. But for the most part, that's all you need to know on that one. Now, Bunga Part A, this is the video for you. So inflation at 3% for those. I've put that you're 59 years of age because that's what you asked me to do. So you're 59, running all the way to age 100. You said you've got £80,000 in cash, £250,000 in an ISA. Congratulations. Only like 9% of people in the UK actually have an ISA, let alone investing for this level of this amount or this duration. We've then got 6% growth on this to be cautious for the most part, which is a real world return of 3%. Your pension is £400,000. And then we've put £241.30 per week for your state pension at 67. So you don't get your state pension for like 8 years, roughly. What this means is we need a liquidation order. So we need to be tax efficient with your money. So you can see here, we've got your current account, that should be used first, then your pension, then your ISA. If we were speaking a couple of years ago, before the autumn budget in 2024, when Labour decided to change things up for inheritance tax, we'd have probably looked at that a slightly different way for tax efficiency and longevity for you and your family. But this is where it currently stands as the most common way of doing things. If you had more different pots and savings elsewhere, obviously that would come into consideration, but this is still a very simple example and most definitely not financial advice. Your expenses though, I've increased them. So rather than doing the moderate, because you've got what, like 700,000, 730,000 pounds in savings, I've gone for a comfortable living. What this means is it's 45,400 per annum for a single person, which works out to just under £4,000 in expenses per month, increasing with inflation. And this tells me, bunga bunga parte, that you're still, even with a comfortable lifestyle, going to get to around the age of 85. Now, if you've got a paid off property and it's just you, you're probably ready to retire. You're probably okay. You're probably feeling quite confident. More than likely, you're spending significantly less. I don't know enough about you, but hopefully that helps there. And I'm just going to run a bit more of a scenario here. So we're going to stress test that very quickly for the pension and ISA because they're both invested. And that still says, actually, you're only going to get to 70 years of age. So even if you've got £730,000, because you're living a comfortable lifestyle, in a decade's time, you're going to run out of money if you're living like that. And you get very unfortunate with the market. So it's really important for you, live within your means. And if a market crash comes around, be a lot more frugal. I'm sure you know that already. If I just take off those little markers at the moment, and we switch it, rather than doing a linear model, we change your pension to the benchmark, and we do that for your ISA as well. How does this look for you now? I think we've still got those markers on there. They didn't come off. That's annoying. Remove event markers. There we go. You actually get up to age 88 on your expenses. So you can spend 45 grand a year, all being on a cautious basis, if you're doing okay. Now, if you're investing in a balanced model, or moderately aggressive or aggressive, there's going to be bigger swings in the market and a lot more volatility. Hopefully, this helps you understand where you are roughly with your situation. If I show you what that looks like from a tax breakdown, you can see that it's just over £50,000 a year via UFPLS that you're pulling from your pension. And this is what the taxation is looking like. So if I get to a little bit later in your life, you can see here that when your state pension kicks in, you've got the 12,570, which eats your personal allowance. And then you're paying a bit more tax, nearly £6,000 of tax a year. You are, for the most part, in your basic rate of tax, quite near the top end of that. If you didn't have the state pension and you were drawing a bit more, fine. If you do need more income one year, it might start to make sense to look at using a little bit of money from your ISA to top up your income, so you're not paying 40% tax on that money. But really, that's all for this video, and hopefully you found that helpful, and I'll see you in the next one. As ever, please comment below. Thank you.